Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and I have an incredibly exciting tour to give to all of you today because just this past summer, my friend and I went on vacation all around Europe. We got a chance to see a ton of different stuff, a lot of it LEGO related, but the focus of today's video is actually going to be taking a look at the home of LEGO in Billund, Denmark, both Legoland Billund as well as the LEGO House Museum. So in case you aren't aware, the LEGO House is this massive building in Legoland itself, which basically serves as a hub for LEGO in Denmark. Not only do you actually have employees and designers working there, but it actually functions as a full-on museum of LEGO. Underneath the LEGO House is a massive vault where you can see copies of almost every single LEGO set ever made, and it has a full-on museum aspect to the building itself, which is super cool. One of the best parts of the LEGO House is that it actually does feature a ton of exclusive sets. If you go, you can actually pick up some stuff like the replica of the wooden duck here, which is exclusive to the LEGO House. You have the brick molding machine right there. You have a ton of other stuff, including the Dagny Hole Master Builder model, which was one of the newest ones that just came out this year, or 2022, for the LEGO House itself. And what's even cooler is that you can actually visit the founder of LEGO's original house, Ole Kirk Christensen's house, which you can see a LEGO replica of right here, outside the LEGO house in Billund, Denmark. So there is so much stuff to see here, and it's not just a museum too, because the LEGO House has a whole building area. There's a place where you can actually investigate all sorts of photos and really kind of create your own stuff and build your own things. And there's just a massive section dedicated to sculptures, where you can see some of the best LEGO MOCs from around the world that are actually flown in to the LEGO House for their displays. There's just so much to see here, and obviously my focus was on the LEGO Museum because it was actually really cool to see so much stuff there, so many artifacts from LEGO's history with a special section dedicated to LEGO Bionicle, of course, but also just to see all the other amazing things that Legoland Billund and the entire Billund, Denmark area had to offer. And so, without further ado, I think it's just time to jump right into things. But most of the video will be dedicated to just the full-on tour and talking through my amazing experience going to the home of the brick, the LEGO House in Billund, Denmark. Let's go. Okay, so this video will basically be serving as a full tour of everything that you can do at not just the LEGO House in Billund, Denmark, home of the brick, but also pretty much everything or almost everything that you can do in Legoland Billund as well. Hopefully this will be fairly comprehensive, and I will be dividing it up into sections in the description below. So if, say for example, you only want to see the tour of the museum at the LEGO House, you can just click the link in the description below and see that. Otherwise, we will just be jumping right into my full journey. I basically only had 1 or 2 days in Billund this past time, and very tragically, I actually lost all of the data on my phone. I had a major crash, and I lost all the photos and videos that I took over that time. So, I will be supplementing this video with photos and videos that I took during my past trip in 2018, about 5 years ago, as well as other photos that folks took of me and with me at the actual place itself this past trip in May 2022. So unfortunately, I took a lot of footage that I just don't have anymore, which is very tragic, but I do have a lot of other pictures and videos to showcase, and hopefully this will paint as clear as possible a picture of what it would be like to actually visit the LEGO House in Billund, Denmark. Let's go. I think it's time to just jump right into the entire journey. Now, initially I had set off and planned to have at least a few days in Billund, one to explore some of the thrift stores around, which allegedly had a lot of really great LEGO selections available, and a few other days to explore 1, the LEGO House, and 2, Legoland itself. Unfortunately, my flight got rescheduled at the last minute, and I ended up having basically just 1 night at Legoland. So that was a really tight schedule, and I wanted to fit in as much as I could to showcase it in a video. I had been to Billund 2 other times before this latest trip, but that was well before I started the YouTube channel. I think the last time I went was 2018, and they definitely had a lot more new things to see immediately upon coming to the airport. So, I arrived pretty late at night, May 20th, 2022, and immediately I was greeted with this massive LEGO sculpture hanging in the airport. Yes, this is made fully out of LEGO, which was really impressive to me to see. I had a lot of great time actually looking at it, of course, while we were waiting for our luggage and whatnot. This was just hanging over the baggage claim, so it was really cool to be able to see the LEGO influence already in the airport. Now, the Billund Airport does have an exclusive LEGO store, which does stock an exclusive Billund Airport LEGO set. However, you can only access that when leaving Billund. You can't access that going to Arrivals, so basically I just had to wait until leaving in order to check out that store. Going onwards from there, we drove up to the brand new Legoland Castle Hotel. Now, this hotel was under construction the last time that I came in 2018, so it was really exciting to see it fully being built, and interestingly enough, they actually did make it look like a real castle. It was really interesting, the way that they actually set up the facade of the building, and the interior did not disappoint. Every little detail, right down to obviously the designs on the walls, as well as some brick-built sculptures as well, were all really replicated accurately, and it was honestly kind of bittersweet because while Legoland is still celebrating the castle theme significantly, LEGO themselves have kind of moved on from castle. Outside of some of the 90th anniversary stuff, pretty much they haven't really been doing anything with castle nowadays, and it was kind of weird seeing all of these like 2013 era castle figures, which were basically the only modern style castle figures that they had to go off of when building the hotel in 2018. They were just all featured here, kind of referencing a bygone era of LEGO that only is still being referenced in Legoland. That being said, though, it was still a really great time. The hotel itself had an entire section dedicated to having a little gift store showcasing all of the Legoland exclusive sets. Now, I had previously already gotten these sets because they were actually available from Target in the US for some reason during COVID. They made them available at Target stores during 2020, so I basically got most of them there and at Legoland Discovery Centers, but it was still cool to pretty much be able to see all of these different sets in an actual hotel. And I think the oldest item they had there, they still had some Disney collectible minifigure Series 2 figures from several years ago, so that was pretty odd to see at the hotel, but I guess they just weren't that popular. But the coolest thing, though, was seeing these brick bins. Now, everywhere around the hotel, just right scattered around the lobby, there were a ton of brick bins where you could actually just sift through them, and the contents of those bins were very interesting. Because essentially the bricks were supposed to be for just people to play with. There wasn't really any restriction on taking a few bricks for yourselves, but they're mostly just for kids to play with. But after sifting through them, I came upon a very clear realization that these bricks were probably from either rejects from the factory or stuff that were from really old LEGO sets that they kind of just dumped in and intermixed, because a lot of the bricks here are from really old sets. There were some Bionicle masks from 2006, 2007 just scattered through there, a lot of Paraka pieces, honestly just a ton of Bionicle pieces in general, as well as just a lot of really old Belleville stuff and just vintage LEGO pieces just kind of scattered around here. And it was just absolutely crazy to me to be walking around and just seeing like a casual Bionicle like Olmec in gold was just sitting there from the Brutaka set. They had a lot of like specialized little pieces that were from the 2003 to 2008 era, and that looked like where all the pieces were coming from, so I definitely had a good time. I didn't take a ton because I already have a lot of the pieces myself, and they're mostly just there for play, but they were allowing kids to take some pieces home if they wanted to, so I made sure to grab a couple of the Bionicle masks, of course. Moving on upwards, though, we made our way up to the top rooms, and again, these were all dedicated and decorated to the castle theme, and let's take a look at my first initial reaction going into one of the rooms. This is our room here. Let's take a look. Alright, let's head on in. Look at this. I think I saw a brick box over here as well. So this is the safe with a special gift in it, but they also have other pieces in here. Oh, very interesting. Okay, well, we'll take a whole look at what's in here later on, but oh, that's one of the vintage engine pieces. Oh, interesting. But yeah, let's figure out what's in here. And we have some gifts. There you go. So after exploring the room, you can see that even around the bed and inside the room itself, there were decorations that were just absolutely filled with all sorts of different LEGO builds. From LEGO potion bottles for the wizard's room, because specifically I wanted to sleep in the wizard's room. Last time we slept in the Ninjago rooms, which were very cool, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. So we were in the wizard's room this time, and inside the room there was a little gift box with LEGO pieces, which was really nice, and if you solved the code on a safe, there was a little bit of a polygon polybag that was given out as well, just a little car polybag, which was just a really nice surprise to find waiting for us inside the hotel room. Of course, by that time it was getting pretty late. I believe it was already close to midnight, so I just made sure to head to bed pretty soon after looking around the hotel one last time, and that was pretty much it. And yeah, even the elevators in every single room were decorated all with LEGO related items. Moving on from there though, the next morning it was crucial to not waste any time. So I got up bright and early at 8 a.m, which honestly wasn't that early, but it was basically the only time that made sense because everything opened at like 10 or so anyways, and made my way over to the other Legoland buildings while killing time waiting for the Lego house to open. Inside the main Legoland hotel, which is where I stayed when I was just a child the first time I visited Billund, I think it must have been around... Man, that must have been around 2008, 2009, maybe even 7. I was really young the last time I stayed at the Hotel Legoland. It was really cool to be able to look around here and, of course, be able to explore all the different rooms. They had a lot of just classic LEGO builds, like a giant Ollie the Dragon build, as well as a full-on Legoland store, which pretty much just had a lot of the Legoland exclusives featured in the store itself. I think the coolest thing that I found here was an actual LEGO Bionicle statue of Tahu, but we're getting there in a second. Moving on from looking at the many displays in the Hotel Legoland area, there were lots of really cool like minifigure magnifying glass displays where most of the figures looked like they were from the 2006, 7, 8 era, which was kind of funny. I saw a lot of rare figure torsos on that in particular. Just pretty interesting to see overall LEGO still using these kinds of figures for displays like that. Of course, when exiting the hotel, it was just really cool to finally see this in the daylight. Obviously, the last time that I went, it was still under construction, and I went pretty late at night, so we couldn't really see the castle, but I mean, this was a really impressive building. It has all sorts of large sculptures outside of it, like that red dragon there. Kind of looks like a Ninjago dragon almost, but yeah, it was just really cool to see just the amount of effort that went into making the facade of this kind of classic style LEGO castle, complete with different factions. So you have the wizards area, the knights area, the princesses area, and they really kind of spared no expense when creating this. I do kind of wish that the banners did evoke some of the classic castle themes, but I guess it makes sense that Legoland just kind of made up their own. Now, this was a pretty massive hotel, and that was on top of already having multiple different hotels in the area, because the Castle Hotel is, I believe, the largest one of the Legoland Billund area, but the last time I stayed here in 2018, I actually stayed at the standard Legoland Hotel, which is not this one. It was actually right down the road, and that Legoland Hotel was actually connected directly to the Legoland Park itself, so they clearly have enough demand, enough visitors to support multiple different hotels and different themed rooms as well. Like the last time I stayed was in a Ninjago themed room. I think the time before that was like a Pirates themed room. So they really tried to theme these up and give us the most kind of interesting things to be able to see here. It was then time to move around and get into the Lego house itself, but not before taking a nice casual stroll alongside pretty much all of the nice area that Legoland had to offer. Unlike a lot of the American Legolands, or maybe even some of the other European ones, Legoland is not just a park. Legoland is kind of a hub for everything to do with Lego, and the entire complex has a whole building where all of the Lego employees work. It has an entire section dedicated to just the Lego house, Lego museums, Lego shops, and all around, and this really did feel like a hub for Lego. In fact, from the view from the airplane looking down, you can see Billund, Denmark. There's not a lot of city here. I mean, pretty much it's just a lot of open plains and fields, and then just everything Lego, and that was something I found to be really funny. I mean, it definitely has expanded a lot more since the last time I went, but it pretty much is just a massive hub for Lego, and it's cool seeing large sculptures of minifigures just pretty much scattered around everywhere. Even the sewer grates like that one has Legoland Billund stamped in it, which is just absolutely insane to me. So finally, after kind of having a quick breakfast at the Castle Hotel, we then moved out and walked around the main Legoland Parkway area, specifically making our way over to the original Legoland Hotel, which has been there for quite a while now. Inside the mainline Legoland Hotel, it was really cool to be able to take a look at some of these different displays, including an employee gift or inside tour set in the form of the Legoland train model actually being featured there, as well as a miniature version of the many attractions in Legoland itself, from the Native American themed kind of waterfall rides to some of the animals that you can encounter on your canoe ride there, and even one of the more recent kind of newer Eagle roller coasters that opened just in 2018, the last time I went. It was cool seeing little miniature
miniature representations of the entire Legoland park, and of course, channel mascot Duckity had a fun time exploring as well. But soon enough, it was time to move away from the main hotel. I'm just going to showcase some photos that I took around the hotel itself, both this past year in 2022, but also in 2018. You can tell I'm a lot younger in some of these photos than I am now, but I think it was a really cool time just to be able to explore around what the hotel had to offer. They certainly had a lot of different designs for different types of Lego builds. Even the interior of every single hallway was Lego brick themed, which was super cool. And of course, all the rooms were decorated with the Lego theming, where you can see even some photos from the past visit that I had was kind of in a generic Lego styled room, but everything was just covered in Lego bricks. It was basically Lego heaven for me. From there, though, it was then time to move away from the hotel itself because, I mean, it was just the hotel. We haven't even gotten to the main exhibits yet. We're 15 minutes into the video and I'm just kind of talking about the cool stuff that you can see at the hotels. But I think it's now time to move on and take a look at the actual walk over to the Lego house, because that was actually a really nice thing to see as well. We then could move on to actually taking a look at the walk over to the Lego house, which, if you don't know, the Lego house is basically the main museum slash interactive, I guess, display area. It's kind of hard to describe what it is. It is a hub for Lego. On the way there, I got a chance to pass the brand new LEGO employee headquarters. That was the building that is actually featured in an exclusive set only given to employees who work on the LEGO campus in Billund. So I was able to see the outside. I could not go inside, obviously, because I am not an employee, but I did manage to purchase the actual copy of the set from Bricklink shortly afterwards because I thought it was cool to actually own an actual model of the building I visited. Moving on from there, there was a little bit of a statue of kids building Lego bricks, which was really cool. It's a really old statue of kids building, I think Ole Kirk Christensen's kids actually building Legos. So that was a really interesting sight to see. And from there, we made our way down from the walk, eventually approaching the Lego house. And the Lego house is really cool. First of all, the shaping is all blocky. You've got all sorts of different blocks making up the exterior of the building, and this is filled with all sorts of Lego-related items. The most interesting to me was the Lego Museum, and we'll be getting there in a little bit.
Alright, so here we are at the Lego house. I cannot wait to show you everything that's inside, so let's just go in and check it out.
First of all, though, it was really cool because the Lego house has a few rotating exhibits, although there are some builds that stay the same throughout. Going on the inside, you can see builds of Ole Kirk Christensen and his family actually replicated from the Story of the Lego Group animation, which came out around 2008, and right across from the Lego house was the original home of Ole Kirk Christensen, founder of the Lego Group, which was just so cool to be able to visit in person and see the house itself. That is literally the house that he grew up in, so that is so crazy to see that, just absolutely pristine and absolutely maintained for the modern era for people to visit. This was a historical part of the Lego room and one of my favorite things about going to the Lego house. Of course, I had to start with the gift shop, and inside the gift shop they had an entire selection of brand new Lego House exclusive sets. Specifically, this was the third set they're doing in this kind of line of Lego House exclusives. They had a few come out before, like the number 1 and 2, but those ones weren't exactly numbered and they were kind of their own thing. This was number 3 in the line of limited edition Lego House sets, the Dagny Holm Master Model Builder set, which we actually just posted a review on pretty recently. Moving on from there, though, I managed to get as many different things that I could from that particular store. Of course, I got all the sets that I wanted that were basically just the ones I didn't own, but I also got a few for friends as well because I wanted to make sure to have some sets for friends. They were limiting them to only 1 copy per person, so I only could get 1 of each, which was good because I already parted out the wooden duck from Bricks and Pieces, so I didn't need another one for myself, but one of my friends did want that, so I was able to get one for him. From there, though, it was really cool because outside the Lego store itself, there was a great big statue of Garmadon from the Lego Ninjago movie. He was there the last time I came as well, but it was cool seeing him. Then from there, we moved on to just going around the main area to take a look at what else the Lego house had to offer. Now, one of the coolest displays was an entire display dedicated to every single Lego Brickhead set ever made. And they do rotating displays, so like when the Lego Movie 2 was coming out, they had an entire display of showcasing showcasing prototypes from the development of the Lego Movie 2, which I really wish I saw, but unfortunately I was not able to go at that time to see it, so I was not able to see those. I know some people have taken photos, but the photos are not that detailed. I absolutely would have just gone really deep into it and taken a ton of photos if I was there, but unfortunately not. However, I know that in the Ninjago Legacy Anniversary 2021 celebration, they had an entire section dedicated to Ninjago prototypes, which some people have taken some far away photos of, but I really wish I was there to actually see because I just haven't seen that documented online a ton. Still, it was really cool to see every single BrickHeadz ever made. This was actually on loan from a Lego collector who was already out there. Unfortunately, my phone crashed shortly after this trip, and I lost literally every photo I took at the Lego house and Legoland, which is kind of depressing, but thankfully I did have backups because I did go with a few other people, and they took a lot of photos and videos for me and of me, so most of the photos here are just pictures of me and not a lot of photos of the Lego themselves. My apologies. I mean, it's not that I only took photos of me and not of the Lego, I just literally lost all the photos on my phone. It's very tragic, I was very sad, but it is what it is. Sometimes that happens. So after that, we were able to go deep inside the Lego Museum. Now, I do know that there is also a Lego Vault, which is underground at this very location. However, you can only access the Lego Vault if you take the Lego Inside Tour, which I've tried to sign up for the past 6 years, and I just never get a slot. It is so sad. I keep trying to sign up for it, and I just never actually get a slot for it. But, I'll keep trying every year until I get a slot. So unfortunately, I was not able to actually see the Lego Vault, which contains a copy of every single Lego set ever made, which is really cool. But I was able to see the Lego Museum, which was equally as cool because they had a lot of really nice displays up. Specifically, at the time I went, May 2022, they were celebrating the anniversary of LEGO Friends. So they had a ton of prototype models for the LEGO Friends theme, talked a lot about how they made the mini doll figures and whatnot, which was cool to see. I do really like LEGO Friends. I think it's one of the best LEGO themes. Yeah, Ninjago probably would have been a little bit more interesting for me to document and see myself, but it was still really cool to see all the Friends prototypes. And unfortunately, I lost all the photos that I took of those prototypes, but I think I still have some that other folks I went with took photos. Now, moving inwards, there was a giant logo just made directly out of Lego, which was very, very cool to see. And from there, it was time to just go throughout the main tour. So here you can see someone was filming me taking photos. All those photos I'm taking on my phone are not saved, which is so sad. But going into the LEGO Museum, you really just walk through the entire history of the LEGO group. Starting off with 1930 to 1940, the very beginning, they had a lot of the original wooden toys on display. For those who don't know, LEGO actually started off by making wooden toys. They were not actually making plastic toys, they started off by doing wooden stuff, like the famous wooden duck, which I'm still trying to get my hands on. That was one of them. And of course, there are a lot of maybe less famous, but also equally classic models of wooden LEGO toys, even going all the way up to the 1940s and 1950s. Around the late 1950s, they did begin the shift over to plastic, but you can see here, this was a very complete retelling of the LEGO story, even talking about stuff like the fire that destroyed a lot of the LEGO's wooden factory, and moving onwards, this is almost every single type of wooden toy, even right down to the hangers, like the clothes hangers that LEGO made. All sorts of different LEGO products were factored in here. But then came with the injection molding machine. So obviously this was kind of the famous quote on the wall, "Have you no faith? Can't you see if we do this right, we can sell these bricks all over the world?" And that was how this injection molding machine started, 1950 to 1960. That was when they really started making these plastic toys, which was really interesting to see here. And there's actually some old archival videos of them actually using the molding machines to really put these together and start the process of making Lego bricks, which was just so cool to see. I think this was one of my favorite parts of Lego Museum because you could see the early history of Lego. You can even see the classic wooden elephant in this photo, which is another one, maybe not quite as iconic as the wooden duck, but still pretty close. And of course, that Ferguson tractor, which is also another classic Lego item. Honestly, the value of all the rare pieces in this room is just so shocking to me, just how cool they are. And if one day I'm able to open a Lego museum of my own, this would be it. This would be the goal. I mean, obviously I've a lot more Lego items to showcase, and my goal for my collection is to open a museum, but this is it. This is basically what I would like a museum to look like. Hopefully not as far away for folks in the US as Denmark.
Moving on to here, we still could see a ton of wooden toys being showcased because this was still in the era of wooden Lego trains, 1957 to 58. So this was when they were maybe phasing out wooden toys and starting to go directly into plastic, which you can see right here, a perfect match. That was plastic Lego bricks, and that was when it really started and Lego really started to take off. So this is showcasing the era of the very early Lego system bricks. You can see some of the early roots of the Lego company, and there's still some wooden stuff. I mean, there's still wooden toys here, but you're really starting to see the transition over to Lego bricks in particular, and the very first Lego offices and even TV adverts as well, with these Lego bricks being showcased on TV, kind of advertising all sorts of different builds you can make. This old style commercial is so interesting to me. Just seeing how Lego was advertising themselves back in the day, it's really rare to actually see copies of these pieces of media just available online. So I just had a really great time just standing there and watching the old Lego commercials and really just taking in everything that the original Lego history had to offer. Again, this was probably my favorite part of visiting the Lego Museum, was just seeing the history and the culture behind the Lego group, just looking at the commercial with those ferry boats and being able to enjoy just everything that Lego was doing back in the day. Moving on from that though, we could take a look at some of the town plan stuff like the townhouses, and that was obviously very much a big focus for Lego moving into the later days, was trying to build out Lego towns. Of course, you have the original patents for the Lego bricks, and those are all the way up there, and what I really like is they included the 2009 town plan as well to showcase how much Lego changed and improved. Obviously that was for Lego's, I believe it was like their 50th or 60th anniversary back then, so it's really cool to see just how far they've come as a company now, and there's the newer version of the town plan featured right there. Moving onwards, we are barreling forwards. I actually do own that Lego system box. I got that from Amsterdam, actually later on this very trip. I saw that box and I thought, wow, that's a really cool box of bricks. Then I went to Amsterdam and somebody was selling it for like 100 euros, so I immediately got it. That was just so cool for me to be able to get an experience on my own that is now a part of my Lego collection. I think I did a video on it. But yeah, here you can see a lot of original photos of just the production plants at Lego and how they were packaging up the different individual bricks in these almost like little cigarette carton type things, and looking at the early 1950s, 60s style adverts here for the Lego company, which is just so cool to see. I'm going to let this keep playing, and you can see they were starting to play around with Lego wheels. So you have the wheel being introduced here for the first time, which was obviously a big innovation for Lego. Lego wheels do not look anything like that today. I mean, this is completely different. They had like the studs on the side and everything, but it was just an early attempt at just trying to create some types of different vehicles and different builds and stuff that you can do out of Lego bricks. So overall, just a really fun time being able to just go through and explore the history of the Lego group. Moving on from here, we start to get into, I wouldn't say like the modern era of like standard bricks, but the bricks are starting to somewhat appear closer to what we see today for standard Lego bricks. Obviously, they're still a little bit different. The clutch power is a little bit different. They didn't quite perfect the bricks yet, but you can see we're now into the 1963 to 1968 era, and they're showcasing certain aspects of Lego sets that you could find around that time, which obviously was definitely something that was really important for Lego to be able to showcase. And moving onwards, we have trains. So trains, this is the era when Lego was starting to do trains, and trains were very popular for the Lego group. So, of course, we go into this very important thing here, and then we go into Legoland. So this was the first construction of Legoland, where they really wanted to create a world for Lego. There was massive interest in visiting the Lego model department, which was the building department that people were kind of just putting together Lego models at the time. And that's when they decided to come up with the idea for Legoland. Before, it was basically just Miniland. I mean, Legoland as we know it today is very different from what they had previously, but there are some parts of it that are still very similar. One of those parts is Miniland. They were just creating little miniature towns and houses, a replica of Denmark for people to visit and maybe spot out where their hometowns were in Denmark. So that was kind of how it started. And then we move in to 1970 to 1980, and we can see how commercials are evolving here. They're showcasing some of the larger style of bricks for babies, like the Duplo, Quattro, or Primo type of bricks. So that was kind of the big introduction of Lego trying to get into the market for different age groups here. That was something that was really important for them to break into, was this market for introducing younger kids. And it was cool seeing the history and progression of Lego deciding to actually go full on and full force into these types of things.
things. On the other end, they also tried to create stuff like Lego Gears and try to go into the more engineering type of stuff for maybe older kids. And this was when Lego was really trying to start to diversify their product portfolio, to really bring in different age groups, different fans and hobbyists of the theme and the brand, and to try to make Lego a tool for people to use. Whether it be bricks or architecture or as a toy, Lego was really starting to branch out. And this was when we started to get the first Lego figures. Not minifigures, but buildable figures, which you can see some of the sets here. These were the Homemaker figures, until we finally got the first minifigures with some of the classic Lego sets, the classic spaceship Galaxy Explorer and the yellow castle there, and of course, the many, many prototypes that went into making the Lego minifigure, which you can see for a second right there. 2 dots and a smile, that was the standard Lego minifig, and you can see some of the patent applications and the drawings for the dimensions of the minifigure here, which was just so cool to see. Some of the original documents were even featured in this particular display, which really was just an archival history of what makes the Lego group what it is today. Of course, I had to focus on the Lego Ducks. The Lego Ducks for Duck Bricks was just kind of a showcase of all the different types of creatures that you can build with just a pile of simple Lego bricks. And yeah, look at all these little ducks. I mean, of course, you have to do it for Duck Bricks. Moving on from that, though, we got a chance to look at a copy of the classic wooden duck. So cool to see that. And then we went into my favorite room out of the entire Lego Museum. And that was the Lego Theme History Showcase Room. So inside this room of wonders, there was basically a column dedicated to different decade or era of Lego. There was a section for 1958 to 1971, you've got like 1972 to 1977, and they were very comprehensive. They basically went through every single year that Lego has been active as a company selling building block toys and showcased some of the best of what the company had to offer during that time. Like the 1984 to 1988 window, as you can see here, you have boxed copy. I mean, all of these are the original boxes in perfect condition of Lego Blacktron, classic space sets. You've got Town, you have Technic, trains, an airport set, even a castle set. So pretty much they were really trying to showcase some of the best of what Lego had to offer. And it was just so cool seeing some of my favorite sets and my favorite vintage sets being showcased here. Like in the section for 1988 to 1991, you have the Space Police 1 cruiser, you have the Pirates, the El Dorado Fortress, oh that is such a good set, the Black Seas Barracuda, classic set, you have some Fabuland stuff, you have the train, one of the Metroliner trains, some Blacktron 2 sets, and you move on throughout the years, going on to 1992 to 95, you have some of the Black Falcon sets, and you have the Lion Castles and whatnot, and of course the launch stuff for Lego City. And then 1996 to 1999, this is with the introduction of Lego Star Wars. So you have that Lego Star Wars set, you have Lego Western sets with the like seeing the boxes was just so cool. UFO sets, even Scala, I mean, and Adventurers. I mean, they really wanted to showcase the good and maybe the not so successful stuff that Lego did. But then, of course, you get to 2000 to 2003, and oh yeah, they had every single Lego Bionicle canister from 2001, so all 6 Toa Mata. You have Tahu, Gali, Liwa, Pohatu, Kopaka, and Onua there, both fully brick-built and outside the canisters, posed, admittedly, a little awkwardly posed, but they were there. You also had some Robo-Riders and Throwbots, because they really wanted to showcase what they were doing with construction. You have Belleville, Racers, Lego Harry Potter, Life on Mars, Adventures. This was a great era for Lego Studio and Technic, just a really cool wall. And then you go to 03 to 05, you've got Lego Vikings that even included some more Bionicle stuff here, Lego Star Wars, Adventures, Orient Expedition, Sports, Creator, Belleville, more Star Wars stuff, just so cool. And seeing it in person made me want to get the Lego Belleville Mermaid set. I mean, look at that. That is so cool. I really want to get that set now. And then you go on to 2006 to 2007, and you'll notice that the years gaps here are kind of shortening because there was kind of more impactful or more relevant stuff to talk about between the gaps of 2 years. So 06 and 07, you can see some of the Baraki from Bionicle there. Of course, you have Lego Exoforce, Lego Mindstorms, the motorized walking AT-AT or AT-AT from Star Wars, a big creator house, Bionicle Hydraxon's box, which was so cool to see just in the box, and of course City stuff, and you move on to 08 and 09. And then going on to there, you've got some of my favorite sets. I mean, this was when I was really into Lego as a kid. So you've got Power Miners, Pirates, City, Indiana Jones, some of the classics, the great sets there. And then 2009, 2010, some of those classic kind of Lego themes and whatnot. So very cool to see those. And then 2011 to 2012, we've got these really classic stuff like the beginning of Lego Ninjago. So obviously that's a big one. And the start of Lego Friends. And of course some Hobbit stuff and Atlantis stuff as well. And then moving on, you can see some of the more modern years, 13 to 14. And then you go on 2015 to 2016, 17, 18, and then 2019 to modern era. That was kind of the ending of it. I like how they included the Ninjago Legacy box there because you really want to show that they're kind of calling back to Lego's history with this sort of stuff. You have a 20th anniversary Star Wars set and a great Lamborghini from Lego Technic. And I cannot wait to see this section continue to expand because obviously Lego is continuing to grow as a company. And so they keep on having these fantastic things to take a look at.
Here was one of the walls dedicated to the history and evolution of LEGO Friends, which was really cool. Again, they are celebrating their anniversary, so it made perfect sense to include that. But that was just that one room, because once you leave that room, there is still so much to see. So going back to our multiple LEGO ducks here, we can kind of continue our tour of the rest of the kind of collection area here. We're still in the early years of LEGO, kind of in the early times, but it's really interesting seeing them continue to evolve. And one thing I really like about this museum is that obviously you have products that LEGO made, but it's not just products, it's photos of advertisements. It's talking about the history of the LEGO group and the important milestones in the company itself. Some of the best sets, like that monorail right there, the Futuron monorail, they have a section of it. They even have like the management paradoxes that dictated how LEGO ran the company back then. So it's really cool because it combines everything about LEGO. It's not just the toys, it's not just the history, it's not just any particular one thing. It was a very comprehensive look at how LEGO evolved. Whether they evolved in terms of doing different types of advertisements or different types of toys. Of course, here you can see some of the best vintage sets. You have some pirate stuff, some castle sets. Obviously, you have some Switch and the CEO as well around this time, and even some MOCs. So you've got like a treasure chest MOC and one of the factory sets as well. You can see the advertisements are switching over to a different style now. It's kind of color advertisements here. And then you have the introduction of LEGO Technic and what that introduced for the system. Light and sound was a big thing for LEGO City around this time, and you have one of these supercars, the biggest set from Technic around that time. Of course, Paradisa, that's a classic early 1990s set. And then, at this point, it was tracking the history of the different leaders of the LEGO group and how, over this time period, they changed in leadership and kind of were taking on new ideas and new ambitions, which was really interesting to see how the growth of the group defined as a company, as well as kind of as making toys as well. So very cool stuff to see here. And this is where we get into kind of the strange years, because obviously you really were trying to figure out how to, I guess LEGO was trying to figure out how to create new experiments in terms of LEGO digital play. So you've got the games, LEGO Loco Chess, Rock Raiders and Racers, you have Throwbots, Slicers, Galador, all the crazy stuff that was going on in like the 2000s era to 2002, lots of Belleville stuff, the Mindstorms brick right there, that's like a big scale Mindstorms brick, which is really interesting to see here. And I appreciate how they really leaned into even some of the things that LEGO did that weren't so successful and really just tried to capitalize on. Here were the histories of the failures of the LEGO group as well. So that was a cool way of seeing things. Obviously, 1999 was the introduction of the LEGO Star Wars with Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which was very big for LEGO. But they needed something even bigger to sustain them as an original theme that they did not have to pay license costs for. And so, in 2001, that was when we were starting to be introduced to LEGO Bionicle. And there was an entire section of LEGO Bionicle, a new age of LEGO, where this entire area was dedicated to just kind of the 2000s to the 2003 era. Up at the top here, coming up, you can see one of the original sketches of the patent for one of the Bionicle masks, the Bakari, the Mask of Strength. It was really cool actually being able to see this on a massive poster just kind of on the side of the wall in the LEGO house. And while maybe in some cases LEGO does tend to not really mention their history and talk about Bionicle that much, I mean, you really had a lot of areas dedicated to everything to do with LEGO here. I mean, it was so cool seeing those original dimensions for the Bionicle mask patent.
patents. So that was one of my favorite things to see here. Of course, that old Pirates and Islanders advert, the Republic gunship from 2002, the Chrome UCS Naboo Starfighter, so cool. All 6 Toamata again, that was very cool to see. And also included here are some of the original sketches by Christian Faber for the original Bionicle line. He initially was planning on giving them away, but of course, LEGO contacted him to actually showcase them in the LEGO house, and it was called a genuine game changer. That's the exact quote from the LEGO House Museum here, and it really does show. And look at those original sketches, and of course the original Toamata as well. Very cool to see them here, and it was really cool seeing these actual hand-drawn sketches that Faber did and provided to the LEGO house. I'd love to see more, and hopefully he will release some more very soon. We've got Jack Stone here, Belleville, more Duplo explorations, everything kind of going into very much the nitty-gritty details of even the evolution of the Duplo rabbit and what happened to it. But then it was going into the LEGO Group in 2003 when they had to sell off the Legoland parks, and they were really kind of strapped for money and trying to really kind of lean into what they were doing and try to reinvent itself. You can see here they were losing faith in the brick. That was showcasing like Bionicle, Jack Stone, Sports even, Belleville, Galador, all that sort of stuff. And it was kind of time for LEGO to course correct around this time, and I do appreciate how they were very honest about this and really talked about what they were doing in terms of trying to right the company and trying to get it back on the right path, especially after this period of economic downturn for the LEGO Group. Of course, you have all of the NBA sports figures here, which was very cool to see them all kind of lined up in a display case, so super interesting to see that. And then we start to sort of move into some more of the modern era here, right? We're past 2003, we're going into 04, 05, and 2006, and obviously everyone had really high expectations for the LEGO Group at this point, and they really had to get back on track around this time. Here we have 2007 is kind of where we're going into, 07 and 08, where they're talking about getting the LEGO Group back on track, and once again being profitable in 2008. They were not profitable between the years of like 03 to 08, so it was pretty crazy how LEGO was losing money a lot over that time. And then we get into more of the modern stuff. You have Maxilos and Spinax on display there, very cool to see that. The LEGO Games dice, so you've got like the original dice made for LEGO, the board games and whatnot. You have the more modern iteration of Mindstorms, of course, in Mindstorms NXT, and LEGO Architecture, the introduction of that, and what the mission and values were for the LEGO Group over this time of regrowth and rebuilding after a period of kind of failures. And then we get into more modern stuff. So of course, you have a lot more modern things to see here. And again, going back into that kind of display room, there were all sorts of different digital experiences for people to be able to pull up a copy of every single one of their LEGO sets that do exist out there. Just so cool to see so much creativity that went into making a museum like this. After a few final shots of my favorite room in the entire museum, which was kind of this history condensed into one particular room of some of the highlight products of the LEGO Group, it was then time to continue moving on because there was still so much more to see in the museum area. In fact, the footprint of the museum itself was almost as big as the entire LEGO house because it spanned pretty much the entire underground area of the LEGO house, which was just so cool. And then moving onwards, I mean, you can just see that as you keep on going outside of that room, that brings us to some of the more modern eras of LEGO's collection. And we have a video here showcasing what they were kind of showing off in the 2010 to 2011 era. Those are some of the original sketches by Tommy Anderson for LEGO Legend of Chima and LEGO Ninjago. Seeing those on display was so cool to see those actual original sketches being showcased. Of course, you have a ton of LEGO Marvel stuff and LEGO Friends and Disney Princesses. And then moving on, you can even see they were playing commercials from LEGO Ninjago. So that was like a Day of the Departed commercial being showcased on the TV there. So it was really cool to see that actually being showcased in the museum itself. That was really cool to be able to watch. And then of course you have LEGO Friends, Mindstorms EV3, LEGO Minecraft, and talking about the evolution of LEGO going into the LEGO Movie. You have some more Technic stuff here and a lot more tidbits of the history of LEGO, and even a showcase of some of the Braille bricks.
Going back to that specialized LEGO room, not only were there sets decorating every single wall, but there was also an entire section dedicated to LEGO trains of every era. And just look at this. I mean, you've got all sorts of different trains. This is almost like kind of what I want to do for my own LEGO collection if I had the space. You've got the clear glass displays of different layers of trains kind of all stacked together. Just so cool to be able to see all of the different trains together. And then you had an entire section dedicated to the early days of LEGO Technic. So you have all sorts of different styles of LEGO Technic related things. And moving on from that, there were still so many amazing displays here. From some of the original LEGO Bionicle prototype masks. I mean, they had some Bionicle prototypes there. I don't think there's actually any pictures of it because, again, I lost all the photos I took in the museum, which is so sad. But they had the original patents for the Bionicle mask shapes, which was so interesting to see there. Of course, you have LEGO Ideas, Aqua Raiders, Atlantis, all sorts of stuff. Really liked seeing Maxilos and Spinax on display there. And yeah, this was just so cool to see the history of the LEGO group.
I'll end with a quick little slideshow of just some of the individual display cases going through LEGO's history. Most of these photos were taken during my time in 2018 because, again, I lost all the photos I took this time, but it's good that I actually documented it pretty well the last time that I went. Starting off from the 1950s era, you have so many copies of those original die-cast little cars, a window set, a standard brick set for a gas station. You are up to 1958 now with all the little gas stations and garages of the little LEGO cars, and then it talks more about the LEGO history. So this is just a very quick overview and run through. Of course, you got the original town plan. You move into 1930s and 1940s here, talking about the LEGO company's evolution. And even right here, there was an entire section dedicated to the LEGO system flags, all those flags. Oh wow, that is so rare to see. And of course, those amazing wooden toys as well. Moving on from that, you have LEGO experimenting with other types of bricks, obviously little models of the plastic molding machine. And going into the 1960s, that was the introduction of the wheel. Yes, the wheel itself was invented, of course, around that time. Well, for LEGO at least it was. And you have some of the LEGO Inside Tour sets, of course. Definitely want to factor those in here as well. And these were all the different types of vehicles they were starting to make. And then came LEGO Trains. Trains really revolutionized LEGO as a building toy hobby and really got folks into LEGO around the 1960s. These were a lot of the early trains that they were making, and even some of these kind of small-sized cigarette-style boxes that were just selling individual LEGO bricks in them, which was just very interesting to see. Here were the original pallets for some of the LEGO Duplo sets. That was really interesting to see those being combined here. Of course, a lot of sketches of the LEGO bricks themselves, and even a model that I do own myself from the 1970s, which was a gear set. That was actually one that I got in Amsterdam the last time that I went there, I think a few years ago. The last trip before this one, so that was pretty cool to see that. And then of course all the little LEGO trees made up of the actual plastic pellets themselves. Moving into the 1970s era, we're starting to see what most people have in mind when you think of vintage LEGO builds. It's that sort of thing. Homemaker and the Homemaker figures were introduced around the 73 era, and we have Model Team, some of the best LEGO cars that were made during that time. Of course, lots and lots of prototypes of the original LEGO minifigure. These are the original prototypes and the original minifigures made for the first time for LEGO, so it's really interesting seeing that. And of course, that first set to include a minifigure ever, which was that police car. And then we go to sets that were built for the minifigures, the classic Galaxy Explorer and Yellow Castle. You got Fabuland here as well. Really cool to see this nice display of Fabuland. I think one of my favorite Fabuland sets is that ferry. Then you have the Lionites Castle, which of course got referenced just this past year, the 90th anniversary of LEGO being showcased there, and this Light and Sound fire truck, which I do believe I just got myself as well. Got that management poster again. Of course, the monorail. Monorail was so good, and I really like how it has a full-on dedicated display case for just the monorail. You have some of those great pirate sets, pirate models, and a ton of copies of the LEGO Factory molding machine set, which I believe was an Inside Tour set. You have a LEGO Paradisus set there, one of the original fire trucks, and then you have LEGO Technic for the early 1990s. That supercar model is so good, and it's really cool seeing that actually featured here. Of course, you have the different LEGO games, you have what Technic was evolving to during that time, and some of the weirder things that moved away from actually making things focused on the LEGO brick, and kind of pushing it away into maybe the more unprofitable territory for LEGO, of course, as we mentioned earlier in this video. And then you kind of have a return to form for LEGO after this section. Of course, you have some Mindstorm stuff and LEGO Star Wars as well, which obviously was revolutionary
revolutionary for LEGO to be able to have that debut in 1999. Then you have 2002, that going into the episode 2 movie as well. And of course, LEGO Harry Potter was a big thing. And then you've got the original Bionicle sketches. So cool to see those from Christian Faber. Very cool to see those. And talking about the rebranding of the Duplo Rabbit, which again we mentioned earlier in the video, you have the LEGO creator builds, of course, a whole section dedicated to Bionicle, as it should be because it was very revolutionary, and a surprisingly high focus on Jack Stone. Like, there are a lot of Jack Stone models there. You even have some of the first minifigures that were sent to space, so it's really cool to see those, and even a good look at some of the exclusive printed figures as well for the many different LEGO events over the years, like the LEGO Fan Weekends and some special printed tiles for Brickset, as well as the LEGO Brick Journal magazine and whatnot. All of these were a collection of different LEGO minifigures made for different events, which was cool. There's my boy Maxilos and Spinax, some of the early LEGO idea sets, the Mindstorms RCX brick, you go into the Aqua Raider stuff, and then of course, an entire commercial playing on screen for LEGO Bionicle. Oh, it was so cool to see that because they were blasting the audio from it as well. So when you're walking through the museum, you're treated to kind of this whole compilation of all the different Bionicle commercials just kind of playing on TV, which I appreciate. That's what they included there because obviously Bionicle was a big part of LEGO's history, and I really like seeing it in a museum where it belongs. Moving on from that, it was cool to see some of those original LEGO idea sets, especially the 2 rarest ones back when it was still called LEGO Kuso, and then the original sketches by Tommy Anderson for Ninjago, Chima, and Nexo Knights. So cool to see those original sketches being featured here, like the Spinjago concept there, and of course the spinners and characters from Ninjago, the Skull Truck, and Legends of Chima as well with their buildable figures. That was a Big Bang theme for LEGO, so obviously they did want to feature it a ton here. Although the description of LEGO Ninjago of talking about very average boys and one special girl seems very strange to me. I don't know who wrote that description. Moving on, you talk about the agreement with DC and Marvel. So you've got the Batmobile stuff and the Avengers stuff, and then some of the iterations when they were making LEGO Friends. So of course that was a big focus for this year going in 2022. You've got the LEGO Movie, more LEGO Friends sets, LEGO Minecraft, some of the best LEGO Minecraft sets there, and even Mindstorms EV3 and some of the modern LEGO idea sets, at least around that time. But honestly, we are about summing up our entire journey here, kind of ending with the latest Big Bang, or one of the latest Big Bang themes, which was Nexo Knights, so it was cool to see that. Of course, the LEGO Ninjago movie was featured as well, where it says it is a permanent theme. The Wooden Woo from the Ninjago movie was also here. It was super cool to see that, as well as the metal minifigures sent on, I think, like the Galileo mission or something like that. So really cool to see some of just the rarest one-of-a-kind LEGO items featured here, and of course, some of the molds for the original LEGO brick, because you can't get rid of those, of course. Moving on from here though, there were just so many different types of interesting things here, even an original blueprint of the LEGO house building itself. But now it was time to move on, because there was still so much more to see. We are an hour into this video and we've only looked at the museum so far. But that was only one small part of the LEGO house, and the LEGO house had a lot more to offer than just the museum. So after exiting the museum, I made my way up to the main spiral staircase built around the Tree of Creativity, which is the hub for the LEGO house. It is a tree that is constantly being built. You can see there is a construction crane on the top of it, which really showcases this kind of aspect of LEGO building, where LEGO is continuing to evolve, and the building process is never done. And showcased on each of the leaves of the tree were different kind of callbacks to LEGO themes. So you got like pirates, space, castle, all the classics being showcased there. And this model is chock full of details. You have built into the trunk of the tree itself Easter eggs to some of the classic LEGO toys like the Ferguson tractor and the wooden duck. And you have all of these official LEGO models being laid out on the tree itself, which I think was my favorite thing, seeing actual LEGO sets being featured on the tree. Like, you have the city area here, so you've got one of the classic police stations and trains, and even like the hot air balloon and whatnot, so that was super cool, just seeing kind of a brick-built representation of what these models could look like coexisting. I like how they combined a lot of different models from different eras, like the airport monorails sitting alongside a modern LEGO city set, and as well as going into Castle, you have the LEGO Yellow Castle, Magisto's workshop there, even some Kingdoms 2011 stuff, to really showcase the history of LEGO and so many different themes that can just exist alongside each other. Look at how detailed they actually put into the effort of making these things here. I mean, these could act as their own sorts of LEGO builds and cities on their own, even an entire section dedicated to LEGO Friends, which obviously is a big part of LEGO, and it was cool seeing how the different buildings from LEGO Friends evolved over time. One of the Easter eggs they had was putting in like the LEGO Creator 3-in-1 monkey and scattering him around, which I really like to see. Different nods to him there, like there he is in a spacesuit next to the Galaxy Explorer, so they wanted to include all sorts of stuff there, and of course next to the other space stuff, you have some of the more realistic space stuff from City, as well as even Galaxy Squad, Mars Mission, LEGO Ideas, Rover, everything related to those different themes were just featured here. Of course I had to take a picture of a stuffed animal monkey alongside the monkeys as well. And there, right at the top, was the crane. That was signifying that the building challenge is never over. And this tree of creativity has actually been made into, I believe, 3 different models. Back around the LEGO house when it was first opening, that was a big kind of model that they were selling. They sold it again as one of the LEGO house exclusive sets. I think it was also an inside tour set, and I guess 4 because the latest GWP, the LEGO house GWP, just last year did have a small model of the tree of creativity as well. So that was pretty cool to see. But of course, this was kind of just the big centerpiece of the museum area itself, and there was still more to see because the Tree of Creativity was just a big LEGO model, but there were a lot of interactive things to do and see here as well. And then we went into the Masterpiece Gallery, where we had 3 different dinosaurs, one made out of Duplo, one made out of System Bricks, and one made out of Technic Bricks to really showcase the 3 core building systems that LEGO has to offer: Duplo, System, and Technic. Of course, after taking some photos of the mascot of the Duck Bricks channel, Duck Bricks, and having those be projected on the wall, which was a very cool thing that they could do, we then got a chance to look at the incredible LEGO Masterpiece Gallery. So the way this works is that the LEGO house actually does solicit several mockists out there and tries to contact them in order to be able to display their mocks here. So showcased here are some of the mocks I saw in 2022, as well as some of the ones that I saw in 2018, which I will admit I think the ones in 2018 were just a little bit more interesting to me, mostly because they had a Bionicle section in 2018, so that was kind of the theme for that month. So we saw some of the winners of the Makuta building contest from the, I think it was like the 2016 or 17 G2 thing, so that was really cool to see all sorts of Bionicle mocks there. I made sure to take a ton of pictures of one of the winners of the Makuta challenge. I would love it if someone was able to rebuild it based on the many photos I took. They even had one of the builds for the LEGO Movie Submarine, which was a build that featured heavily in the LEGO Movie, but for whatever reason never was made into a set. You have Peter Reed's Galaxy Explorer, that was from like the neo-classic space type of build, which was so cool to see that physically in person. I mean, this is just such a cool build. He was also the creator of the LEGO Exosuit Idea set, which obviously was featured in his original build there. And overall, just lots and lots of incredible mocks. I think seeing them online is one thing, but being able to actually see these amazing builds physically in person and be able to go around and take pictures of like alternate angles and see how they were constructed and just kind of look at the many different clever ways that these incredible LEGO builds were built. That gave me a lot of appreciation for how these were all put together. I think I really tend to admire a lot of LEGO mockists out there because I am no mockist myself. My pieces unfortunately are not sorted, and I am just continuously blown away by the level of quality and detail that folks are able to accomplish by putting together mocks just online and stuff like that, and seeing it in person was just a crazy experience. Just absolutely blew my mind the way that a lot of these were built. So that was probably one of my favorite sections here, was just being able to see people's mocks and other builds, but there was still so much more to see. We then moved on to the massive LEGO city that they had set up, and this was so cool to see. And I'm building a LEGO city right now, and this, I mean, I can't get anywhere close to this. I don't have this much space for one. I mean, this is bigger than my entire LEGO room put together. But it was really cool seeing just one of the most fully fleshed out and realized LEGO cities that I've ever seen, and they had different areas as well. There was a mountain castle area that showcased kind of a more medieval-like aesthetic. Then there was a Fabuland Island, which was a more amusement park type island with a full-on volcano, and they had different lighting setups, so they had the day change from day to night, and all sorts of different light conditions that were projected onto the city. Just so cool to see that there. Moving onwards from that, they had a little interactive section where you could build your own LEGO city groups and start to kind of build just little kind of like 6x6 plates were given out for you to build your own creations and place them into the city, and there were a lot of AR capabilities to showcase that, as well as people's mocks of city stuff themselves. I'm gonna be honest, I could have spent my entire day just staring at this absolutely insane city. The amount of Easter eggs to older LEGO themes like Islanders or even stuff like Ninjago were so cool, and you could literally spend hours just going around this city area and trying to find Easter eggs and things that you find cool or interesting around the city because there were so many little details. Moving on from the city area though, then it was time for the minifigure madness section, where there were bins and bins and bins of LEGO minifigures, which you could photograph and use. You could one of the things in the LEGO house that I didn't really mention is that you had these little special wristbands, and you could scan the wristbands to get content synced up with your phone. You could do interactive stuff like take pictures, make a stop action photography movie there, all sorts of different studio zones and sections where you could just do character creator stuff, and the minifigure selection in that particular madness area was pretty crazy. I mean, you could see all sorts of different licensed stuff and stuff that you wouldn't normally see in terms of just standard LEGO minifigure stuff. Now, moving on from that, the next area up here, there was some demolition, like racing derby testing stuff. One of my favorite parts was this special AR aquarium. So let's see exactly how this works. I've got a video here. I made a duck fish for, of course, duck bricks. So you take your build, you just have to build a fish, and you basically just scan your wristband, and that will scan your creation into the aquarium itself. So you can see I have the fish that's similar to a duck. You can scan it right here, so you can see it's scanning. Once it scans it, it identifies what bricks you used and what color. You can check it if it looks good, and then the fish will swim into their digital aquarium, which was populated by different builds that other people had created. So you can mark where the eye was and give it expressive faces and whatnot, which was a really funny thing to do. Even give it a mouth and whatnot. I unfortunately couldn't just leave it with just the bill. I wanted to just leave it with just the orange duck bill. You had to give it a mouth, but once it was in there, you can actually see the fish float into the aquarium itself and then leave your build up on the LEGO house wall to showcase alongside all the other fish to swim. So when you're done for the day, they would take them apart and leave the parts there for other folks to build. Moving on from that, there was a flower building section, so I made sure to play around with that, build my own LEGO flowers, and add that to the section itself. And then there was an entire section dedicated to making little LEGO dancing mosaics. I don't even know what these were, but they had specialized exclusive printed tiles, where the tiles actually interfaced with the LEGO house machine here. You press the big button there, and voila, there you go. You scan your wristband, and it basically just scans in your build. Once you press the button, then it goes upwards onto the showcase dancing disco floor, where you can see your own LEGO creations just slowly building upwards. There's the duck themed one, of course, the mascot of the Duck Bricks channel. Duckity is watching its progress very intently as it slowly goes on up and eventually is brought all the way up until the main dancing floor here, where you can see it appears on the screen, and that was just so fun to play around with. It was really cool to be able to make your own LEGO creations and showcase them on this massive screen and see them come to life, which was just really, really fun, and one of my favorite things to do at the LEGO house. Here you can see a wall of all the people's different LEGO creations that they made there, which was really cool to see. Of course, I had to go back to that LEGO city and take even more photographs of the city itself, because that city was just so cool, and even get a chance to take a look at some of the different aspects of the models on the LEGO Tree of Creativity itself.
Overall, the LEGO house easily could have been a full day event. There was so much stuff to do, and especially for younger kids, they had a lot of activities for young kids to be able to interact and play around with the different LEGO experiences they had. From building a city to building little frogs, bees, flowers, even the Duplo bin where the young children could play in and just crawl around in the Duplo bin. They had experiences for both seasoned fans of the LEGO group like AFOLs for the museum, as well as tons of experiences for kids as well, which I think was the perfect way to have the LEGO house set up. You have something for pretty much every single age of fan. Now, of course, this basically ended my own trip this last time to the LEGO house because I was pretty short on time. May 2022, I basically had just one day to go to both the house and Legoland, so by the time it was past lunch, I just immediately left. But I did manage to get a few other photos from the last time I went in 2018, where I basically had 4 days in Billund, so I was able to spend as much time as I wanted here, and so because of that, we can take a look at some of the other experiences that were available at the LEGO house that I just didn't quite get to do this time, but I did last time.
time, like a stop-action photography studio, where you can see they actually had cameras and everything set up if you wanted to make your own stop-action movie, which I thought was really cool. It basically teaches you how to do stop-action. I haven't done a stop-action video since 2018 actually was the last time I made one, I think. So this was a really fun experience to go in and be able to do this, and yeah, it was pretty cool how they actually had an entire area set up to teaching people how to make brick films, which obviously was a big part of my childhood growing up and was kind of what got me into LEGO in the first place. One of the cooler things as well was the fact that they had this really special type of free giveaway where they specifically had a LEGO factory brick molding machine inside the LEGO house itself, which essentially gave you a special exclusive poly bag with a card with your name printed on it, which basically showcased what type of configuration of 6 2x4 bricks you could receive on your own. And it's kind of just a cool giveaway. It's free with admission. You can get pretty much as many as you want, so it just generates these poly bags. You can go ahead and grab them, and the card will teach you one of the many different configurations of the 2x4 bricks. But to me, I think that aside from the museum, one of the hands down coolest experiences ever in the LEGO house that was something I had never experienced before was the LEGO Cafe. So let me explain how this works. First of all, you are given a poly bag where you specifically have to use the pieces to build your meal, which you can see kind of outlined in the instructions here. You essentially take the pieces, and depending on what piece you use, that is how you place your order into this foodifier type thing, where they have all sorts of different options for food, and you take the bricks in the poly bag to build a little kind of small build. Right here you can kind of see the just standard bricks being used here for colors, and you choose what you want. So your main, your side, your greens, and warm greens, those were all the different choices, and I just thought that was a really unique way of ordering. But the fun did not stop there, because not only was this kind of just the very simple way to order, you can see you choose your elements and scan it in. It's just simple kind of like AR, just like scanning image recognition technology, but I just thought it was an interesting way of placing an order. I mean, very unique. Never have done this before. But they also had a whole set of LEGO robots that actually were able to serve your food to you, plus a really fun customer interface to use this. Now, unfortunately, the thing is that they did have a kids meal, and the kids meal includes an exclusive LEGO Chef minifigure that is decorated with the LEGO house emblem. I did try to get it, but unfortunately, because I'm not a kid, they just refused to give me the kids meal. I asked many times if I could just buy the LEGO house chef separately, but they did not let me. So I think that you do have to go with the kid. I mean, maybe you could get lucky and get a different employee the next time that you go, if you were able to go and get that exclusive minifigure. But no matter how many times I asked, they did not give me the exclusive chef minifigure. I wanted to order the kids meal. I mean, the kids meal looked pretty appetizing, and I was pretty hungry, so I could have eaten both a regular meal and a kids meal. But you know what? They were just like, yeah, no, we can't give it to you if you're not a kid. So sadly, I did not get that exclusive minifigure, but maybe one day, because that one is fairly expensive on Bricklink. The salt and pepper shakers were also fully LEGO themed, which was very cool. Those are actually ones that you can buy yourself, so I did really appreciate that. And yeah, that was basically how the system works. You slide your tray in, it scans it in pretty much instantaneously, offers for you to confirm it, you hit the check mark, and your order is placed. It is as simple as that. Now, over to the serving area. As you can see here, the orders were served in Lego-like boxes. They were very similar to like the Lego IKEA boxes, but each of the boxes were individualized Lego themed, and you can see this almost Lego Technic-like contraption that was all like with robotics that showcased your food being transported all the way down from the kitchen down to you. And this was so cool. I mean, you can just see the journey that your food takes going high up along the walls. Life-size or large-scale Technic gears are the ones that are turning and moving this. Obviously, everything was done with robotics and not actual Lego bricks, but it was still really cool to have that entire Lego aesthetic being factored in. No other Lego location in the world, I think, has this. This is only exclusive to the Lego house in Billund, Denmark. So that was super cool to see this. And they also had these robots where you can see they have kind of the Lego detailing, the eyes move, and they have the robotic arms that move and actually serve you your food. I think I only saw something like this on a cruise ship the one time, like the Odyssey of the Seas the last time I went. But yeah, as you can see here, they actually use these specialized robot arms to be able to dispense your food. At the ends of the robots are the older style of Lego robotic clamp, like the ones they used in the Alpha Team sets and stuff like the older Lego robotic stuff. So it's so cool to see these actually being factored in. And I think this was easily one of my favorite parts about the Lego house, was just seeing the Lego robots, like the eyes move, the arms move, and they actually serve your food to you. I mean, watch this. You have your food in the white and yellow box here. It kind of slides
slides up in front of the robot, gets ready to be served, and then the robots actually push it to you, which I just thought was so cool. I mean, look at that. It just gives you your food like that. I mean, that was just such a cool experience. Finally, the last thing that I did was actually do the LEGO Mosaic Maker experience. This was back in 2018, but back then this was the only place that had it. You now can get this in like the New York location, and I believe the London location as well as a few other LEGO locations like the Disney ones. But back in 2018, this was exclusive to the LEGO house, so I had to get it here, and essentially you walk into this booth, it takes a picture of your face, and it generates a full-on set of instructions for your own LEGO Mosaic to be built as a set, which is obviously not quite as refined as some of the LEGO mosaics that they're doing nowadays for LEGO art, but I just thought this was a pretty nice and charming little thing that you could do, especially with just standard LEGO bricks, to be able to get a representation of yourself as a souvenir to take home from the LEGO store and the LEGO house itself. So that's a copy of the box it was actually factored into. A lot of people had the jokes about the Thanos snap going on there on the side. That poor kid is being snapped away by Thanos, but you can see here, this was kind of the little animation that they played when dispensing your box, and I just want to let this play all out in case folks are curious in terms of what this looked like. And then right down at the bottom, your box was pretty much dispensed, and it was sliding out of the box there, which was really, really cool to just have that be fully dispensed for builders to be able to take one home. But with that, our journey at the LEGO house had ended for this day, and after passing by the statue of the young kids in the Christensen family building bricks again, it was then time to move on to the Legoland Park. But I didn't want to waste any time. By around past noon, I think around 1 p.m., I knew it was time to wrap it up at the LEGO house, and it was then time to move on to Legoland itself. So Legoland Billund is similar to a lot of the other Legolands out there. These stores are not as good as Legoland Deutschland. If you've gotten a chance to check out some other videos on my channel, you may have seen the absolutely insane pick-a-brick experience I had at Legoland Germany. That absolutely blew me away. For whatever reason, they did not have that available in Billund, Denmark. I guess because like maybe most of the factories are in Germany. I don't know. I mean, there was a factory here, but for whatever reason, the pick-a-brick kind of madness was only in the Germany Legoland. However, Legoland Billund did have a lot of exclusive rides and stuff to see on its own. After encountering a massive Sons of Garmadon Ninjago Zane statue, which was so cool, I want that in my house right now, we were able to go and check out an entire Monster Fighters land and Monster Fighters dedicated section to Legoland, which was interesting, because obviously Monster Fighters was very short-lived, just in 2012, and is a pretty old LEGO theme. But they were advertising it. They had a massive kind of brick-built ghost train from the Monster Fighters lineup, which was so cool. You could see Lord Vampire's castle being fully brick-built, which was crazy to see because it was almost like huge scale, which of course Monster Fighters is one of my favorite themes, so it was cool seeing it have so much recognition here. And there was even a Monster Fighters ride, so there was a full-on ride dedicated just to Monster Fighters, which was really fun to play around with and just kind of be able to experience on my own. Plus a walk through haunted house experience to go with it. From there, of course, I got a chance to take a look at a lot of the large LEGO landmarks, which were surprisingly kind of different from what you would see in a lot of even the American parks. And there was even a Pirates ride. Now, this was one of the oldest rides there and was themed around the original Pirates line. So they made this ride back when LEGO Pirates in its original form was still coming out. So all of the figures there, all the ships, are references to that era of LEGO Pirates. There was a life-size Black Seas Barracuda inside the cave, which was so cool to see. One of my favorite things to see at Billund, of course. It was just so cool because this ride literally doesn't exist in any other Legoland. They made this ride, again, back when Pirates was first coming out years and years ago, and just haven't really touched it. It was basically LEGO's answer to Pirates of the Caribbean. You'll notice that a lot of these rides are kind of budget versions of Disney rides, but with LEGO included. But I actually really like this one because you can clearly see that the pirate figures are based off of recognizable minifigures from the vintage LEGO Pirates line. All of the Armada soldiers, the pirates themselves, are wearing the same outfits that the minifigures wore. You can see Captain Blackbeard or Redbeard there, the classic LEGO pirate that we got from the original 80s and 70s lineup, so pretty much everything here was custom built to mimic those original days of LEGO Pirates, and of course, having an entire ride celebrating a classic LEGO theme with actual human-like depictions of minifigures was very cool. And they also had the Splash Battle one as well, although that one is pretty common across all different kinds of Legolands, first debuted in California, and it's a good ride overall.
There was a large spider spinning ride, which I declined to do. Kind of just a very vertigo-inducing spinning thing. It's Bionicle themed in the California Legoland, so obviously that is a bit of a plus there. One other thing exclusive to Legoland Billund was an Arctic roller coaster, which actually featured a really cool drop. Like the roller coaster actually vertically dropped in the middle of the coaster, which was absolutely unique and definitely not something I was expecting. I think I did it in 2018, but I kind of forgot about that. So that was all new to me, which was really, really cool. And they even had live penguins swimming around the roller coaster as well, which you definitely don't see at every Legoland. Going on from there, of course, I had to take a ride on the classic LEGO Technic Test Track roller coaster, which you can see at almost every Legoland, and then do something a little bit more unique. This is the LEGO Vikings ride, where you can see a life-size version of the LEGO Vikings 2006 Midgard Serpent. You can also find that in Legoland Windsor, but it was cool to see here, and I also really liked how even the food down to the fries were LEGO brick-shaped. That was a very nice touch. Of course, the hallmark of every Legoland is the Dragon roller coaster. And the decorations inside this one were a little bit different, because typically while LEGO tends to do large brick-built minifigure style stuff, everything here was brick-built like regular humans because that was what they were doing back in the day. One of the exclusive rides to Legoland Billund is the Eagle roller coaster, which was fun. It was alright. It came out in 2018. And they also had the LEGO Rado Canoe, which was kind of a callback to the LEGO Western theme, showcasing all of these brick-built animals on almost like a Splash Mountain-esque canoe ride where you can see the different wildlife of the American frontier, which was interesting to see in Billund, of course. I really liked these brick-built depictions of the animals. The wolves were especially well done, having the tongue sticking out, and overall I was pretty impressed by the amount of detail that went into these creatures. Obviously they were built a little bit more recently because they were part of the expansion with the Eagle roller coaster, but I appreciated being able to see them nonetheless. Next up on the list was the LEGO Ninjago World. This is also a staple of a ton of different Legolands where pretty much every single thing is the same. Many of these pictures are from 2018 when Ninjago Season 9 Hunted was airing, so of course I had all of the new Hunted figures exploring the area, which I felt was a pretty fitting way to take photos of them, kind of just interacting with the LEGO environments and taking photos next to their life-size versions and statues of themselves. Always cool to be able to see these interacting with actual LEGO pieces. But overall, the Ninjago world is basically the same everywhere in the world. The Ninjago ride is actually pretty fun. It involves you kind of launching elements from your hands, and it's a whole VR type simulator type thing where you don't actually have any goggles, just 3D glasses, but you launch it and it looks via 3D from shooting elements from your fingers. It's a little hit or miss, but it was cool to see all those different enemies and features from the past Ninjago history, and the voice acting was using the original voice actors from the TV show. It's a shame, though, that in every Legoland they misspell Lloyd's name as Floyd or Leod, depending on which screen you're looking at. In fact, it is pretty rare to see his name spelled correctly, and they keep doing it even when they keep opening new Legolands, which makes it very clear they're just reusing assets with that typo and they don't really care enough to change it. Kind of annoying, and it's just like something they could easily fix, but they just don't. It's just kind of funny, though, to see just Lloyd's name spelled as either Leod or Floyd, depending on what screen you're looking at. And that is just how it is. I mean, every Legoland, even brand new ones that just open new Legoland rides and Legoland buildings, they have that name misspelled because they can't be bothered to change it. In 2018, when I went, they had a massive LEGO Star Wars X-Wing as well, although unfortunately that was no longer there when I went back, I think because of Galaxy's Edge. They also had a large submarine section where it was actually just an entire aquarium in collaboration with Sea Life, where you could see different types of minifigures submerged in the water, which I thought was really cool. Of course, one of the final rides was this contraption of a robotic arm. Now, this started off as the Bionicle Blaster ride, and it still is themed to Bionicle in Legoland Deutschland. However, this was just called like the Power Builder in Legoland Billund. It didn't really have any sort of LEGO theming to it whatsoever. This was one of the only rides that just didn't have a LEGO theme. I mean, as you can see here, I don't see any bricks. You're just kind of mounted on a robot arm and thrown around. I honestly feel like they could have kept the Bionicle theming and just left it as is, because, I mean, what LEGO theming is there to add to this ride other than something Bionicle related? Still, it was cool to see a bit of the history of Bionicle back in this ride, and it was very cool doing it in Deutschland when they actually were themed towards Bionicle and they had the Metro Nui statues factored in as well. And then you got Miniland. Miniland is great. Miniland is pretty similar everywhere around the world that you go, but it was still really cool to see. I feel like Miniland is one of those places that just never gets old. And sometimes, depending on the Legoland that you're in, they're kind of in different states of disrepair, especially if you go to like Windsor or even Legoland Korea and whatnot. A lot of the Minilands are just pretty run down, but that was not the case for Legoland Billund. Miniland was absolutely thriving. Every model was in really good condition, which was kind of surprising to me given that this is basically the oldest one. I would have expected it to be a lot more run down, but I guess they just take a lot better care of their Minilands in Billund compared to many of the other parks in the world, and it was really cool being able to see all sorts of different world landmarks that I personally had visited in real life, actually going alongside these streets and the towers and all of the icons in the Miniland street. But then moving on from there, it was time to go to an exclusive world in Legoland Billund, and I believe only a couple other places, and that was the Lego Movie World. At least compared to a lot of the other Legolands, I think only one other one has it, was the Lego Movie World, which, as many know, was converted into the Lego Mythica World for most other Legolands, but they were already too far in development to change it for the Billund, Denmark, the Legoland here, so they basically just went ahead with the Lego Movie stuff despite no longer having the license to the characters. What was cool is that they had a lot of areas dedicated to the Lego Movie 2, so they had a full-on raptor sculpture from like Rex from the Lego Movie 2, as well as a whole kind of video that was the ride. The ride was a big screen that you could watch, and it was just a really fun thing to see the ride itself. I did manage to take a full-on video of the ride going through Cloud Cuckoo Land. You kind of progress through these rails and you fly through the Duplo invasion, so you go to Middle Zealand with the Castle Land, and then you kind of make your way over to the pirate areas. It was kind of a cool showcase of all the Lego Movie worlds, eventually going all the way up to space, seeing the Duplo UFOs and whatnot, and eventually coming back to Cloud Cuckoo Land to finish up the party, which was a really cool thing. For being just one of those flying theater rides, the quality of the animation was actually really good. It was basically Lego Movie style animation. Now, everything was in Danish, so I wasn't able to tell whether for the US versions if they used the actual voice actors. I doubted if they got all of the voice actors back for this, but still, that being said, it was just a really interesting way of having a ride be put together. I liked seeing all the different Lego themes being represented with really good animation here, and it was just a blast to ride because this was a wholly unique ride. I think it opened in Legoland, Florida, but I have not been to the Legoland in Florida in quite a while, so I haven't actually gotten to experience that yet. And yeah, it was just a really cool and fun ride to be able to showcase the different places that you can find in the Lego Movie and the Lego Movie 2, which is a bit odd because obviously Lego doesn't really market those properties anymore and they're not really that relevant, but hey, I guess Legoland is all about not having very relevant themes take the forefront. I mean, there is a ride for Pirates and Castle, of course, so I guess they don't really care. Of course, I had to do the LEGO Adventures ride, which was cool because it featured the LEGO Harry Potter Basilisk from 2002 fully brick-built. I just thought that was a really interesting inclusion. And of course, the free giveaway that was an exclusive with Ninjago purchases at the actual place was the specialized crystallized poster. That was the only way to get an exclusive kind of special printout of the Ninjago crystallized poster. This was before the season was out and before I thought that it was still going to be very good, so I was very excited to get this poster. Still a cool poster to get though. But after that action-packed day, it was finally time to say goodbye to Legoland Billund and the Lego House. After taking a final stroll through the park and getting a chance to witness the Legoland Marching Band, which I believe is a tradition that they've had since the beginning of the park, really cool to see that, it was just now time to go check out these stores and see if there was anything to get. I think the most interesting thing that I got here was a copy of a sealed Lego DC Superhero Girls set. That was the Eclipso Dark Palace from around 2018. It was in their bargain clearance lineup, so it was really cheap, and I guess that just hadn't sold for years and years despite being available for a while, so it was interesting being able to pick up some of those older sets. Now, I really wish I was in Legoland Billund around 2020 when they discovered a secret treasure trove of discontinued Lego polybags, and they just kind of put them up for sale at retail. There were like Lego Studios polybags from 2001 and 2002. They had some Bionicle mask polybags literally selling as recently as a couple of years ago that I guess somebody just found in a warehouse in Billund and said, you know what, why not, let's just sell them. Still though, despite not having that, the stores were still very cool to visit, and it was a great time being able to just look around Legoland Billund for one last time. But moving on from that, it was time to finish up our day at Legoland Billund, and that was a crazy day. So I went back to the hotel, and it was literally time to leave later on. So, I mean, I had a very short time frame here to just go around, see the stuff, and then leave. So I was going blasting through Legoland. But it was a fun trip, and of course, the time to wrap things up was at the airport to take a look at the exclusive LEGO Billund Airport set, which I already did own, so I did not need to buy another copy of it. It was cool to see it still on sale though, and see all the different sculptures they had around the airport and the waiting area, like the kind of gates for the airport, all had these different LEGO sculptures beside them that clearly were built years and years ago, which was so cool to see. And with that, we had wrapped up our journey to Legoland Billund. Of course, my favorite thing to see there was the Legoland Museum in the Lego house. Just seeing the history of the Lego group and kind of walking through all the different older Lego products and the old commercials and just being able to take in all the rich history that Lego had to offer was easily my favorite part, because I obviously love Lego. I love the Lego group. I love learning about the history of the company, and that was really monumental to me as a big fan of Lego to be able to go through the official Lego Museum and get a chance to just take in all that history. And if my Lego Museum in the future is even close to what this has to offer, I will be happy, because this was just so cool to see. Of course, riding the exclusive rides in Legoland Billund was fun as well, although they definitely were aimed towards younger kids. I mean, obviously I'm not the target demographic here, but it was still cool to experience the exclusive Lego rides. But easily the highlight for me was visiting the Lego house in Billund, Denmark, and it was such a fun trip. I can't wait to go again. Hopefully the next time I go, it will be on the inside tour. Fingers crossed, because I am dying to go and do that.
Alright, and with that, we have summed up our visit to the Lego house in Billund, Denmark. Here's the little small-scale architecture model you could actually get of the house itself. And that was one of my favorite experiences, just going through the house and figuring out what were the amazing things that I could see there. From the Lego Museum, to the MOCs on display, to the entire building area and the minifigure building section, there was just so much to see and do here that I feel that I definitely need to visit again, because there were so many things that I simply just ran out of time to do. I basically had one day to go to both Legoland Billund as well as the Lego house, so time was pretty split between the two of them. I'm pretty satisfied with what I saw, but I know there's so much more to see in the future. And so for next time, I now know what I want to hit and what I want to see. This was actually my second time visiting the Lego house. I visited back when it first opened around 2018, and I visited again in 2022. And hopefully in a few years, I'll be able to go again to revisit it and see everything that I missed and see what has changed. So that about sums up this video. Let me know down in the comments below, have you ever been to the Lego house in Billund, Denmark? What did you think of the experience? Have you been to Legoland Denmark, and what do you think of that? Now, this has been part of an amazing series of Lego videos I've been covering of my recent trips, such as going to Germany and doing some Lego shopping there, going to Legoland Germany and witnessing the amazing Pick-a-Brick factory. So be sure to stay tuned, because there are so many more videos about finding Lego all over the world coming out very soon. I hope you've enjoyed this series, and be sure to like and subscribe for even more Lego news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks so much, and bye for now.